Hello, everyone. Welcome to a conversation about HBO's The Undoing, streaming now on Crave. No matter where you're joining us from, we encourage you to reflect on the land that you are on, who the traditional keepers of the land are, and what the treaty relationship is, or if it's unceded territory. I myself am currently located on the treaty lands and territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit and the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, the Wendat, and the Haudenosaunee. This territory is within the lands protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant and is home to many First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. We here at Tiff are very grateful to work on this land. My name is Geoff Macnaughton. I'm the Senior Director of Industry and Theatrical here at Tiff. I'm also the lead programmer of Primetime, our festival program devoted to showcasing the best in international television. Before we begin, I'd like to thank our lead sponsor, Bell, our major supporters, RBC, L'Oreal Paris, and Visa, as well as our major supporters, the Government of Canada, the Government of Ontario, and of course, the City of Toronto. A huge thank you to Crave for presenting this conversation with us. The Undoing is currently streaming on Crave in Canada, and the series finale will drop this coming Sunday, November 29th at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. If you don't know by now, The Undoing is the latest limited series from showrunner David E. Kelley, the creative mind who has really shaped the last 3 decades of television with award-winning series like Chicago Hope, Ally McBeal, and one of his more recent titles, Big Little Lies. The series follows Grace Sachs, played brilliantly by Academy, Golden Globe, and Emmy Award winner Nicole Kidman. Grace is this affluent therapist, devoted mother, and wife to Jonathan, played by Golden Globe winner Hugh Grant. Grant really exudes this different kind of charm, and it's really used to his advantage. Grace's perfect life starts to unravel after a mysterious murder, a missing husband, and a chain of concerning revelations that take place. The series is directed by Academy Award and Emmy winner Susanne Bier and features a brilliant supporting cast including Edgar Ramirez, Canadian icon Donald Sutherland, and Olivier Award winner and Tony nominee Noma Dumezweni. We're thrilled to have Susanne Bier and Noma Dumezweni with us tonight. Over the years, the Toronto International Film Festival has been honored to showcase six of Suzanne's films, including Brothers, After the Wedding, and In a Better Place, which won the Academy Award for Best Foreign Language Film. The Undoing is not her first foray into directing a series, as she won an Emmy for her work on the John le Carré adaptation, The Nightmanager, starring Tom Hiddleston and Olivia Colman, our current queen. Noma Dumezweni's on-screen credits include performances in Chiwetel Ejiofor's directorial debut, The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind, and Rob Marshall's Mary Poppins. However, if you were lucky enough to have seen her on stage in her amazing award-winning performances as the great Hermione Granger in Harry Potter and the Cursed Child and Ruth Younger in A Raisin in the Sun, you are very fortunate. Noma, Susanne, thanks both for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Susanne, I was hoping we could start with a question for you. When you agreed to direct The Undoing, my understanding is that David E. Kelley and Nicole Kidman were already attached. Can you tell us a little bit how you became involved and maybe a little bit about what drew you to the project?
Well, first of all, I want to say that the cocktail of David E. Kelley and Nicole Kidman was a very attractive element. And so, like, even before reading, I was like, okay, that sounds interesting. And then I read at that point, David had written the first draft of the first episode. And I read it and I was just immediately drawn by the world. I was drawn by the sort of untangible sense of unease. But also I was kind of attracted by the notion of filming in New York City and actually portraying New York City, because in a way, New York City is a character on its own. So there was this sort of like quite a lot of different things which drew me to it. And then I had a conversation with David about it, and because it could either have gone more drama and more thriller. And I was like, I'd be very keen to do it if it's going to be more thriller, because I think that was sort of the right way to go about it.
Well, you definitely, I think, get a sense of that feeling of it being more of a thriller, and that anticipation that you get after every episode. I was wondering, in terms of your process as a director, when you commit to a project, are there certain elements that you prioritize over others? Like, some directors talk about theme attracting them, or subject, or story. You talked a little bit about New York City as a place and a character, which is really interesting when watching, because New York City as a character has changed very much from when you shot it to now. Or are collaborators a big part of that attraction to content?
It's a lot of everything that you mentioned, but I think more than anything else, it has to do with characters. Are these characters really interesting, and are they potentially, like, are they enigmatic? Do they kind of stir up my imagination? Do I wonder about them? So I think like the material, like the written material, has to kind of make me really think, and actually not necessarily, it doesn't need to contain a lot of answers, more like a lot of questions. It's actually essentially the material which draws me. I mean, after the material, you want to feel that the collaboration is going to be fun, that you're going to have but it's essentially the material.
And staying on material, when approaching the project, how familiar were you with the source material in terms of the novel You Should Have Known, or was it really about David E. Kelley's a script that attracted you? And I think this applies to both of you. So Noma, in terms of your thoughts when reading the script for the first time, what was it that really attracted you to it?
Reading it, first and foremost. Just reading that first episode. I remember getting the first episode to read just as a whole, but Hayley wasn't in there. And then I got this is towards for the audition, and then the two sides arrived, the pages of Hayley that I was going to tape for. My thing is, if I'm just keeping turning the pages, this is a good thing. If I don't need to put it down and go have a cup of tea and come back, that's not a great thing. But to keep turning the pages, that's what David did in that script. And I thought, Susanne says, your curiosity of character. I was curious who these people were. And I do love curiosity. I mean, that sense of curiosity, trying to find out, because that first episode is like, what on earth is going on? And I don't know how many drafts in by the time I got it for the audition. And then I got the sides for Hayley. I was like, okay, I'm interested in this one. Yes, please, I'll go and put myself on tape. I'd love that. And I knew Susanne was going to be directing it at that point, so I was really excited by that. But what I didn't know was that, and I know it was out there, but I did not know by the time I did the audition that Nicole and Hugh and Mrs. Sutherland were attached to it. So always it's back down to the script and then who's playing, and who I knew was playing was Susanne. So I was like, yes, please, I want to go in. And then I got it. I was like, and Susanne knows this feeling because she watched me kind of implode and expand all at the same time during this process. But one thing I did do is get a copy of Jean's book. You Should Have Known, because I'm curious. And that blew my head, because what I realized, and I keep saying this, there are two versions of adaptations from a source material to the result on TV. And one was Fleabag, which was Phoebe Waller-Bridge's one-woman show, and then to see the TV show that she created with all those characters. And then when I read You Should Have Known, I was like, can I swear?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh my fuck! I do, because I do it too much, so I always have to ask now. I was like, oh my fucking god, this is an extraordinary piece of adaptation, because what you get in the book, it's all from Grace's point of view. Every conversation, every moment that's happening, every memory. That's what I was just absolutely bowled me over. And Hayley wasn't in it. The same way, if you look at Fleabag, it was just one person telling a story. But then what David did with these characters was make this whole world. and then talking to Susanne about it, which is my learning curve. We know this, and I think we haven't spoken about it since we finished, because I think I came off like that. Oh, I just learned so much, and it was hard. But I had been doing 3 years of theatre, and then I arrived the last week of the theatre gig, playing the Hermione on Broadway, and that's my joy that we were in New York, so I could carry on filming when I got this gig. Also, the other thing that exploded my head was the sense of oh, I've just lost my train of thought. Don't you hate that? Because I was like that. But sorry, that's right. So then my first day after finishing Harry Potter was a week later. A week later after that gig. And I did come in like this. I look back on it now, doing it to the back of the room, da-da-da-da-da. And Susanna was like, ooh, okay, let's come back a little bit. Let's come back. What she taught me, what Susanna, you taught me, was extraordinary about that world. And it's interesting because I've got a length of time to really sit in it and watch the reactions of how people are receiving The Undoing. Was what she taught me with Haley is stillness and silence, and you draw people to you. Because Noma came in from the theatre, was going da 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 da. Let's pull it back. You remember? Oh. And I remember going, "Are you okay?"
Yeah, there was just a lamp that fell down. But
oh no, shame.
Yeah,
you're right. Is
okay.
it up?
Yeah, I'm fine.
And I just
like we're in a thriller now.
it was. Oh my god. But what she did was basically say, "I know you can do this. That's why you got the job." And I was going, "Oh my god, I've got the fucking job. Oh shit, I'm working with these extraordinary people." And I had an idea of what I wanted Haley to be. And I think between us, we got there. I remember someone asking, is this your performance or the director's performance? I went, no, it's the director's performance, actually. She got me there. And but you did. And you got that. No, but you got that story. You had faith in me, but I think I didn't have faith in myself. Let's put it this way. I've learned a lot and I have great faith in myself now. And that was part of the learning of it. So there's so many answers I've just given you, but Jean's book, the adaptation of what David did, the experience of working with Susanna, getting to know this world has been thrilling, and to see how people are receiving it, especially.
Yeah, I actually, I'm going to kind of loop around to some of the points you just talked about. But one of the things that I was interested in is just so I set it up properly, just so people know, Haley is this high-powered defense lawyer, really tasked with winning what seems to be an unwinnable case. And I'm curious about, both of your thoughts on the courtroom in fiction. The courtroom in fiction seems somewhat of a stage within a stage, and any performer is somewhat tasked to play a character who's performing in front of a jury, and that's something you were tasked to do, Noma. Did you channel your experiences in theater, specifically around those scenes?
Of course I did. Of course, in that moment when it came to the courts, it's like, oh, thank God, I've got an audience. No, I was terrified, actually, because it is a different form. TV is a different form, but there was a sense. And also meeting the lawyers that I did do in terms of research, who spoke about the courtroom as theatre, and how you work out what you're going to do and who you're going to tell it to. Where do you send the message you want to send? Is it to the jury? Is it to the judge? Do you know what I mean? I love that sense, because one of the tags we've done for the show, I thank the supporting artists of that jury, because I really felt they're holding me in a space of telling a story, because I could look at any one of those jury members and I know that they were doing their work and they were being affected by what they were seeing in the courtroom. So yes, I did enjoy that part of the theatrical of it, but I was so aware of where the cameras were at each and every given moment. Absolutely.
But also, yeah. I think in a way that because it's such a classical stage, and it's been done in so many films and so many TV shows, I wanted to do it so it was extremely specific to the show. And so I was kind of really adamant about this having an increased tension. For every time you went into the court, it would be more and more and more tense.
Yeah. And it's a rejig every time. I remember that. You go in, and you work out, look, these are the stakes here. This is what I need. This is what I want to get through. Watching all the different characters. Because also your visual language is so strong, which I seriously see. When you're doing it, it's a different thing. But now seeing how you put all these things into space, I was like, yeah. And also
now you understand why I had to torture you and you keep doing it.
Well, I found it so refreshing, Susanne, when you watch the courtroom scenes, and it is not your typical courtroom scenes. There are almost no objections from the lawyers. The judge is not as prominent of a player, at least in the episodes that I've seen. And there's these subtle reactions of the characters, to Noma's point, that create more questions than revelations or answers, which a lot of times you get in those courtroom scenes. And so I found that, so refreshing. And I'm wondering, is there, did you have influences there, or was it more about, doing something, to your point around suspense, doing something that fit the story that you wanted to tell?
No, it was doing something that fit around the story I wanted to tell, but it's also, I mean, TV and film is essentially a visual language. The court case, the court is essential a verbal stage. And so the trick for me was about, without being, while embracing everything that the court could do, was still maintaining the fact that we are telling a visual story. So what you do is that you have the looks of someone, or you have something which doesn't necessarily work with the words coming out of the mouth. And so I used it slightly different. Can I just add one thing?
Yeah, of course.
And I don't mean to interrupt the flow of the thing, but
of course.
But I think it's crucial when we talk about adaptation, which we did just earlier, to mention that David only really used the book for the first 2 episodes. And so this is why, like, the court is not in the book. I mean, there's a whole bunch of it, which is why Haley is not in the book. So there's a whole, essentially it's a character and a setup which is used for the series, and then the rest is just was developed by David.
It was a brilliant jump off. It was a brilliant.
Totally. And that helps with the suspense as well. People that have read the book are getting something different when they watch the show, which
and also they can't tell everyone how it ends.
Yeah, I know. I was like Googling. I was like, I'm going to figure this out prior to the meeting, but couldn't do it.
It's wonderful. Yeah.
I was hoping to talk a little bit about kind of, not to kind of use this metaphor again, but like setting the stage on your first day on set. And Susanne, do you have any kind of approaches you take on day one of production to kind of set the stage? And is there a ritual you have, or I'm really curious about that.
Look, I pretend a lot of, I spend a lot of first day pretending that I'm not anxious at all. Which is a kind of odd ritual, but I think I pretty much set the stage in terms of, hey guys, we're gonna have fun, but there's gonna be no talking. There's gonna be no small talking. There's gonna be nothing which sort of takes away the concentration. I kind of, in a friendly and kind way, pretty much sets the stage for, we're here to do something which is sort of meaningful and has, carries weight. And we are not, it's fun, it's fine if we have fun, but that's not why we're here. Which is kind of boring. but
no, it's great, actually. Yeah.
Well, that kind of
sort of I just want to make sure that there is a real deep respect for what's going on, and for what the cast is doing, and for what everybody, like all the artists are doing, like, you know, the makeup, everybody needs to be
and I absolutely
totally dedicated.
the respect on that set for everyone else's work was beautiful. That's what I was very, very aware of when you go into a company, because people have asked me about Nicole and Hugh's work ethic and the whole. I'm like, it's work. It is absolutely first and foremost. Who are these characters? What's the story we're telling? And there is a reverence for that. And so therefore, yes, the learning curve I had, because actually that's what the director is there for in any space of storytelling. Who's telling the story and how that room works. And it worked for me. What Susanna, I can now say this absolutely with clarity because it's been so long. Because it felt like pain. I was having to transmute what I thought I was doing, but actually, it's a practice. And then I look back and I go, again, that was brilliant. Actually, she got me to do that. And I was very, very But all the things because of how she set up the room. You go, okay, I'll do it. Yeah.
One of my big memories from this series is Haley's introduction. I don't think there's a better entrance in the series than your introduction. And the reason because is that you get the context, and it's something that you created together. You get that context in that moment of that character. You understand her so deeply within seconds, it feels like, where there's questions that remain across the board with every other character. And Susanne, I'm interested in terms of when Noma walked into the room for the audition, what was your initial thought, talking about great entrances, and what really wowed you about her for this part?
Well, she did a self-tape. So she didn't walk into any room. She did a self-tape. And I had seen some clips before that, which kind of got me intrigued. And she did a self-tape. And I was like, you know, I can we had a lot of discussions about it because, you know, there were some way more famous names in sorry to be so
I love this year. I love to know this year.
Yeah,
because that's what I'm
going. So there were some way more famous names in the mix, but I was like, there's something about that lady Noma who's kind of very, very intriguing and kind of slightly imposing, and I liked that. I thought it was right for it. And so I was like, I'm just gonna sit there on top of it and make sure it's gonna be her.
Yeah, I'm so grateful. I am so, because honestly, it's of course, because that's why I always go shocked and I can't believe I got the job. And it's a narrative I've been saying in most of the interviews. But to be in a room, yes. What's lovely is that I actually have met, we met socially a few years ago, a lovely Women of the Year dinner in England. And then to come up for this, going, oh, it's that director, because I've watched The Nightmanager and I've watched Susanna's older film, to go, that's a great artist. And again, that's why I went, I want to go up for this job, let alone the script, and I want to go up for this maker. So I'm always curious to hear, because I've done directing in terms of theatre. And there is a thing that's really interesting, and it's about balancing your instincts as well as balancing the combination of people that come into the room. And it's not personal. It's about how do we get this story out there the way that you want to, the way that if a director wants to get that story out there. So I will, do you know what? I'm going to be grateful for the end of my days, really. Yeah. I'm going to be grateful. Because it was a birthing process. Thank you, darling.
Likewise.
Honestly.
Likewise.
Thank you. Yeah.
No, I've read that you felt like you'd never really played a character like Haley before. And I guess my question is, now that you have, is there another type of character or role that you'd like to test yourself as an actor?
I never know until I meet them. So literally, my imagination is not that big. I know what I can do, stuff like that. But because I'm not a writer, I'm not a storyteller. I serve the makers and the storytellers, and that's what I love about the job I do. How can I help you fulfill what you want to see? So therefore, it's always about the story that comes forth. And I'm now old enough to go, it's instinct now. It's like, I need to be part of this. If I can, and reading that first episode was like, oh, yes, please. I don't know, but let me just put myself up there. Let me just see, because there, and I also like being able to say, no, that's not it. But reading Hayley, I thought, I don't know this world. I don't know this woman. And also she's an African-American woman and I'm British, raised with a South African history. So what we do as actors, we want to be able to tell these different narratives. And I'm so grateful. So I can't answer that specifically, but let's see what happens in a year's time, Geoff. Let's see where we are, is what I'm going to say.
I can't wait. Susanne, you've had this amazing success in film and television. However, I would love to hear Noma's pitch to you on why you should test your skills in theater and direct a play in the future. Noma,
Oh my God.
over to
Have
you.
you ever done that? Oh, Geoff, that's thrown a curve one. But now, first one on. Have you ever done it?
Not
Susanne?
really. I've done it
Not
once, long time ago.
But you're so visual, because it's really interesting, I think, with theatre. Do you think you'd enjoy it? But my pitch is that visually, with the right, because you'd also design it as well. You would design it. You would
But
design
can I ask
You'd
you
have to-
something? Can I ask you something? Can I ask you something? So here's what I'm not sure I can do in theatre. It's
Yeah.
like, why do you need to rehearse for like 5-6 weeks?
And then I say of TV, why don't we rehearse for at least 5 or 6 weeks beforehand? Because that's what fascinated me about TV. It's like literally, no, you've got the script, you know what the character is going to be, that's your costume, and then come in. But I don't know why we have to do that, but I know I love it because that's why I've done it in terms of theatre. But already that's your answer, Geoff. She's not meant for the theatre, because you are going, I want to cut and bend. I don't know whether it's too early to talk about this, but one of the most exciting things for me to do with The Undoing. So obviously I'm totally pushing
Don't reveal
that thing away.
anything.
No, I can't. But
Yeah.
that's what's joyous, is that we don't know. Can I say that? Nobody knows.
Oh, you don't?
I think it's only 3 people in the world. I think all of us have only seen the 5 episodes so far. And I am so excited by that. Because collectively, we're all going to be hitting the story for the first time on episode 6. How are you feeling about that, Susanne?
I'm terrified.
What terrifies you?
Wow.
What
No.
terrifies you about it?
No, I don't know. I'm always terrified. I'm just always, once I can't do anything else to it, like once I can't edit it
Is
or
that
change
with your
the music,
hand?
I'm sort of notoriously, in the mix, I will go in and change the edit. And, I'm kind of notoriously known to kind of, we can do this a little bit, which isn't quite working. Let's change that.
Yeah.
And so once I've kind of, let it go, hey, this is weird. I should be able to kind of record it or something.
But of course, that's the creative life. And of course, because I think what we do, for me as an actor, we put directors on this pedestal and you go,
please, can I go up there?
Say it again.
Please, can I go up to the pedestal?
You're already there. Do you know what I mean? And then you realize you're going, but this one I'm seeing her beautiful vulnerability, this human being. And I saw it there as well. But like you said, well, let's go back to that first day, whatever. And I came in a week later, but it's like, yes, we're getting on with this. And you need that running a show, running a story, the leader, the captain. That's it. If they're too soft, it's not going to happen. If they don't know what they want, it's a really frustrating place to be. But actually wanting to meet what the director wants is such a pleasure. And we've done it here. So, but what's lovely is to go, oh, bless you, of course. That's it. Your baby's out. Your baby's out. They're now out in the world.
Yeah. And I'm trying to tell my grown-up kids what to do, and it's sort of the same effect. Like they go, right, and then they'll do whatever they want anyway, and probably always have.
Yeah.
I guess that's one thing to help Noma's pitch for theater is that you get to do it again the next night. And again.
Yeah. But it's called madness as well. That is called madness.
Yes,
the other side of that. Brilliant.
Obviously, the film and television and theater industries that we're all kind of talking about here, like many others, have been really impacted by COVID. And I'm curious to learn how COVID impacted the production of The Undoing and how it has impacted future projects that you were planning. And this applies to both, but maybe Susanne, if you want to start.
We were almost done editing when everything kind of went into like lockdown, and we were editing in London, and I had to go back to Copenhagen because everything got locked down, and I need to, and so I was FaceTiming with the editor who had an Avid in his apartment, and he was kind of showing me a card, and I would go, oh, like a little bit in, a little bit out. So we kind of managed to finish the show. We didn't have to shoot anything. It was all post. But we had to push because even we were meant to go in May, and there was no way we could actually finish. And so we did finish editing while in lockdown, working long distance, and it was weird and everything. And then as everything opened up a bit in August, when we all thought, we're over this, I went back to London to kind of go over the mix. I've listened to the mix, long distance from Denmark, but I want to sit in the room with the mixing and kind of go. So I sat in a mixing cinema, which is quite like a rather large cinema in London, watching all 6 episodes. Wow. And it was so weirdly nostalgic. It was like it had been shot a year earlier, but this whole art sense of, hey, no one was wearing masks. Everybody was touching each other. They were kissing. Yes. They were hanging out. It was just like, I've had this weird sense of nostalgia, and it was just very bizarre. Yeah. And I think there is a kind of oddly romantic element to it, in spite of it being a thriller and everything. I think there's this oddly romantic element to it, watching it now, because of the pandemic and everything, which has changed us all so radically. Yeah.
It's quite beautiful, actually.
Yeah, I was thinking about that earlier when you were talking about New York as a character in the city, and how that character feels like it's changed right now, and you're watching these like bustling streets in New York, and it feels like you see images obviously in the news, and it's sadly not like that anymore. The character has changed, and it's interesting watching your series in that light. I am curious, you mentioned seeing The Undoing in a theater when you were kind of, and that kind of feeling of going back to a time when we were in a place where we were able to do that. But I'm also curious, when you've talked about The Nightmanager, you talked about it as directing, a 6-hour film. Did you approach The Undoing in a similar way?
Exactly the same way.
Yeah.
It is a 6-hour-long film, and it's shot like that as well. It's boarded like that. It's boarded like a scene from episode 6 in the morning and episode 2 in the afternoon. So what is fun and challenging as a director is that you have to have that entire overview over 6 hours as opposed to 2 hours. And this being a thriller, you have to be acutely aware of every single beat, so that this character knows this much at this point. And when you throw everything around, and then you got to kind of think of, so the audience will then probably be guessing this. And therefore, the temperature of a scene needs to be slightly, cooler, warmer, So it's like 5 huge big chessboards running at the same time.
And that's why I'm not a director. Do you know what I mean? I don't. But that's amazing. Yeah.
And I guess when thinking of it in that light as a 6-hour film, what was your relationship with David E. Kelley then, in terms of bringing that to the screen? Obviously, David, an experienced showrunner, and is more kind of familiar with that space. What was that showrunner director relationship in this case like?
It was great. I mean, it would be like, he was writing. He was in Los Angeles writing, and I would call him. I usually end up having to call him on the weekends because we're shooting, and we'll be talking about scenes or talking about elements or story beats, and he's brilliant. Like, he's kind of genius actually, but he's also super collaborative. And so it's very sort of, you know, I'd have a note or I'd have a comment, and he would kind of go, yeah, okay, let me think about it. I mean, they weren't like lengthy conversation, and then he would send me something, and I would go, yeah, but maybe this and that, and he'd go, okay. And you know, it was just fun, and actually weirdly uncomplicated.
And I know that Nicole, in addition to being, you know, the lead, it was also executive producer on it. What kind of did she take part in as executive producer, and how involved was she in bringing the project together?
She was very involved. I mean, she's sort of, when she's on set, she's clearly in her character. I mean, she's totally in her character, and she's the actress. But you know, then she'd be calling up in the evening and going, hey, how about that? Or I would be calling her, and you know, as a director, having Nicole as a executive producer, she's a director friend, so she'd be totally supportive and like helpful in all manner of that role.
Yeah, as I feel like we would expect only of her. Well, we're actually out of time, but I just wanted to be a big thanks to Susanne and Noma for joining us on this conversation. We can't wait to, you know, watch the season finale, as I'm sure, Noma, you can't wait either. And audiences at home can watch it on HBO's The Undoing on Sunday on Crave in Canada at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I guess, any final tips to audiences who are about to see this for the first time?
Oh, enjoy it. Take your time.
Yeah.
Get a glass of wine, get a notepad, maybe have someone to talk to, whatever you do. Just
no, don't get a notepad.
I'm loving people trying to work it out. I'm seeing so many things of people trying to work it out. It's choice. Yeah, she's right. Don't get a notepad. Sit in it, because it's beautiful storytelling. That's enjoy, is what I'm going to say, because I am. Yeah.
Yeah. Me
Well,
too.
thank you
enjoy.
both.
Thanks, Susanna. Thank you, Geoff.
Thank you.